I'm Maya, 28 years old. For as long as I can remember, my parents favored my sister, Brooklyn, the golden child, while my achievements were brushed aside. But nothing cut deeper than last Thanksgiving. I thought things might finally change. They promised my sister's cat, my most dangerous allergy trigger, would be gone so I could come home. Instead, minutes later, I was gasping for air, collapsing into anaphylaxis, while my family laughed over dinner. Before I tell you what happened next, let me know where you're watching from, and thanks for being here. I grew up in a quiet suburban neighborhood in Denver, in one of those picture-perfect houses with a wraparound porch and a 2-car garage. On the outside, the Thompson family looked flawless. My dad, Michael, ran a successful landscaping business. My mom, Patricia, juggled real estate work and the household. And then there were my sister Brooklyn and me. From the moment she could walk, Brooklyn was the golden child. I, Maya, was the responsible one, the achiever, the daughter expected to need nothing. This isn't about sibling rivalry. It's about a pattern of favoritism so obvious it shaped my entire childhood and scarred me well into adulthood. When I was 8, I won the regional spelling bee after months of practice. I ran home with my trophy, only to find my parents consumed with comforting 5-year-old Brooklyn, who was upset over a stained doll dress. My big win earned a quick nod, while she was promised a trip to the toy store. That trophy never made it to the family photo wall, unlike Brooklyn's dance ribbons. By middle and high school, the pattern was set. My straight-A report cards and leadership roles were brushed off as expected, while Brooklyn's average grades and Instagram following earned celebrations. Even on my graduation day, when I was valedictorian, I scanned the crowd, desperate to spot them before my speech. But they had already left, to soothe Brooklyn's nerves about her prom date. My throat tightened as I stepped up to the microphone, smiling for an audience that did not include the 2 people I wanted most. I told myself I was independent, that she just needed them more. But the truth is, every excuse I made hollowed me out a little more. Like living in a house glowing with light, where every room was warm and bright, except the one I was standing in. College was supposed to be my fresh start. Away from the family dynamics, I could finally be appreciated for who I was, and I thrived. I majored in marketing with a minor in communications, maintained a 3.8 GPA while working part-time to help with expenses my scholarship didn't cover, and landed internships that led to a great job offer upon graduation. Brooklyn, meanwhile, dropped out of community college after 1 semester because the professors were too demanding and moved back home. My parents welcomed her with open arms, converted the guest room into an Instagram-worthy space for her to create content, and supported her financially while she pursued her influencer career. When I graduated college summa cum laude, my parents attended the ceremony but spent the entire time taking pictures of Brooklyn, who had insisted on wearing a white dress because she wanted to feel special too. During the reception, they left early because Brooklyn was tired and wanted to go shopping for a new phone case. But here's where the story takes a darker turn, and where my health becomes central to everything that happened next. During my sophomore year of college, I started having strange reactions to foods I'd eaten my whole life. It started small, a scratchy throat after eating trail mix, some hives after a dinner that included pesto. I went to the campus health center, and after a series of tests, I was diagnosed with severe food allergies that had apparently developed suddenly, which can happen in your late teens or early 20s. The list was extensive: tree nuts, shellfish, and most severely, any products containing casein, a protein found in all dairy products. The allergist explained that my reactions could range from mild discomfort to full anaphylaxis, which could be fatal without immediate treatment. I was prescribed an EpiPen, taught how to read ingredient labels obsessively, and given strict instructions about cross-contamination. The doctor made it clear that this wasn't something to take lightly. People die from food allergies when they're not careful. When I told my parents about the diagnosis, their response was telling. "Are you sure you're not just being dramatic, Maya?" my mom asked. "You've never had problems with food before. Maybe it's just stress from school." My dad was more direct. "These allergy things are way overblown these days. Everyone thinks they have some kind of sensitivity. Just don't eat nuts if they bother you." They didn't ask for a list of foods to avoid when I came home for visits. They didn't research cross-contamination or check with restaurants when we went out to eat as a family. They treated my potentially life-threatening medical condition like it was a dietary preference I had chosen. Brooklyn, on the other hand, had started developing what she called gluten sensitivity around the same time. Though she'd never been tested, and her symptoms seemed to appear and disappear based on her mood. My parents completely restructured the family kitchen around her self-diagnosed condition, buying specialty products and researching gluten-free restaurants. The contrast was so stark, it was almost funny. Almost. But I adapted. I carried my EpiPen everywhere, read every ingredient label twice, and learned to navigate a world that could literally kill me if I wasn't careful. I built a life for myself in Denver after graduation, working for a mid-sized marketing firm and slowly climbing the ladder. I was doing well. I had friends, a career I enjoyed, and an apartment in a trendy neighborhood. I rarely went home, partly because of the food allergy complications, but mostly because every visit left me feeling depleted and invisible. And then Brooklyn decided she needed an emotional support animal. Not a dog, which might have been understandable. Not a small, low-maintenance pet that could provide comfort without much disruption. No, Brooklyn decided she absolutely had to have a Persian cat. A specific breed, from a specific breeder, costing over $3,000. The problem? I'm severely allergic to cats. Not just uncomfortable, I have full respiratory reactions to cat dander that can trigger asthma attacks, and in combination with my other allergies, create dangerous situations. I found out about the cat when my mom called me at work on a Tuesday afternoon. Maya, honey, we have exciting news. Brooklyn is getting a therapy cat to help with her anxiety. We're picking up Princess Whiskers this weekend. I felt my stomach drop. Mom, you know I can't be around cats. Remember my allergy testing? Cat dander is one of my worst triggers. Oh, that. Her voice became dismissive. Well, you don't live here anymore, so it shouldn't affect you. And Brooklyn really needs this for her mental health. But what about when I visit? What about holidays and family gatherings? There was a pause. Well, you'll just have to take some medicine or something. We can't deny Brooklyn what she needs just because you might be a little uncomfortable. A little uncomfortable. That's how she described a medical condition that could send me to the emergency room. But they had made their decision. Princess Whiskers moved into the family home. And just like that, I was effectively banned from visiting my childhood home. Not officially, not explicitly, but practically speaking. I could no longer safely enter the house where I grew up. The few times I tried to visit over the next year, even with maximum allergy medication, I would start wheezing within minutes, my eyes would swell, my throat would close up, and I'd have to leave. Each time, my family acted like I was being dramatic or difficult. Just take a Benadryl, Brooklyn would say, while the cat rubbed against her legs. Maybe if you weren't so stressed about everything, your allergies wouldn't be so bad, my mom would suggest. My dad would just shake his head like I was causing problems on purpose. They converted my childhood bedroom into a cat paradise, complete with custom shelving, expensive toys, and a window perch that cost more than my monthly groceries. When I mentioned that maybe the cat could be kept in certain areas of the house so I could at least visit occasionally, I was told that it would be cruel to cage Princess Whiskers, and that I needed to be more understanding of Brooklyn's needs. For over a year, I accepted this new reality. I celebrated holidays alone or with friends. I missed family gatherings and important events. I told myself it was temporary, that eventually we'd figure out a compromise. I had no idea how much worse things were about to get. The phone call came on a Thursday morning in November. I was at my desk, working on a campaign presentation, when my mom's name popped up on my phone. She rarely called during work hours, so I answered immediately. Maya, I hope you're not too busy. I wanted to invite you to Thanksgiving dinner this year. It's been so long since we've all been together as a family, I was surprised. What about Princess Whiskers? You know I can't be in the house with the cat. Oh, we've got that all figured out. Brooklyn is taking Princess Whiskers to her friend Jessica's house for the day. The cat will be completely gone, and you can come home for Thanksgiving like old times. For the first time in over a year, I felt a spark of hope. Maybe my family had finally realized how much their choice had cost our relationship. Maybe they missed me enough to make this accommodation. That would be amazing, Mom. Yes, I'd love to come. Perfect, come early, around noon. I'm making all your favorites. I hung up feeling lighter than I had in months. I went shopping for a nice bottle of wine to bring, bought a new dress, and for the first time in years, I was genuinely excited for a family gathering. The morning of Thanksgiving, I took my allergy medications as a precaution, even though the cat was supposed to be gone. I packed my EpiPen, my inhaler, and extra antihistamines, just to be safe. At 11:30, I drove to my childhood home with butterflies in my stomach and hope in my heart. I should have known something was wrong when I rang the doorbell and heard barking from inside. Barking. Brooklyn opened the door with a huge smile. "Maya, you look amazing. Come in, come in." I stepped inside and immediately felt my chest tighten. Cat hair. Everywhere. On the furniture, floating in the air, embedded in the carpets. The house reeked of litter box and cat food. "I thought Princess Whiskers was supposed to be at Jessica's house," I said, already reaching for my inhaler. Brooklyn's face fell slightly. "Oh, that, yeah, Jessica had to cancel last minute. Some family emergency or whatever. But don't worry, I put Princess Whiskers in the basement for the day. You'll barely notice she's here." I could already feel my throat starting to close. The dander was everywhere. You can't just hide a cat for a few hours and expect the allergens to disappear. "Brooklyn, I need the cat to actually be gone, not just in another room. The dander is already triggering my allergies." "Maya, you're being ridiculous. It's just a little cat hair. Take a pill or something." Before I could respond, my mom appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on her apron. "Maya, happy Thanksgiving, sweetheart. You look wonderful." "Mom, Brooklyn said the cat was going to be at Jessica's house. It's still here, and I'm already having a reaction." My mom's expression hardened slightly. "Well, plans change. We can't control what Jessica's family decides to do. Princess Whiskers is in the basement, so I don't see what the problem is. The problem is that I'm allergic to the entire house now. The dander is everywhere. I can barely breathe." My dad emerged from the living room, beer in hand. "Maya, you just got here. Don't start causing drama already." I stood in the entryway of my childhood home, wheezing, eyes watering, feeling like I was drowning in the place that was supposed to be my safe haven. And my family was acting like I was the problem. "I need to use my inhaler," I said, pulling it from my purse and taking 2 puffs. This is exactly what I was worried about. "You're being so dramatic," Brooklyn said, rolling her eyes. "It's Thanksgiving. Can't you just push through it for one day?" Push through it. As if allergic reactions were a matter of willpower, but I wanted so desperately to be part of this family gathering that I decided to try. "Okay, I'll take some more medication, but if it gets worse, I might need to leave." "It won't get worse," my mom said firmly. "You're working yourself up. Come on, let's eat." The dining room table looked beautiful, set with my grandmother's china and autumn decorations. For a moment, I could almost forget about the burning in my lungs and the hives forming on my arms. This was what I had missed. Being part of a family, sharing a meal, feeling like I belonged somewhere. But as we sat down to eat, Princess Whiskers decided to make an appearance. The cat sauntered up from the basement like she owned the place, which, let's be honest, she did. She jumped onto the dining room table, walking directly across the turkey platter, her fur shedding with every step. "Brooklyn, can you please get the cat off the table?" I asked, feeling my chest tighten further. "She's just saying hello. Princess Whiskers, come to Mama," Brooklyn cooed, making no move to remove the cat from our food. The cat then proceeded to rub against every dish, leaving hair in the stuffing, on the rolls, across the cranberry sauce. I watched in horror as my family continued eating as if there wasn't a cat contaminating our entire meal. "I can't eat this," I said, pushing my plate away. "The cat has been all over the food." "Maya, stop being such a germaphobe," my dad said. "A little cat hair never killed anyone. Actually, it could kill me, Dad. That's what an allergy means." Brooklyn huffed dramatically. "God, Maya, you always have to make everything about you. It's Thanksgiving, and you're ruining it with your allergies." I felt something snap inside me. I'm ruining it? I was told the cat would be gone. I was told I could safely come home for Thanksgiving. I haven't seen my family in over a year because of this cat. And now you're acting like I'm the problem. "You are the problem," Brooklyn shot back. "You're jealous that Princess Whiskers gets more attention than you do." The words hit me like a physical blow. Because in that moment, I realized she was right. Not about being jealous of a cat, but about the attention. A pet was getting more consideration, more accommodation. More love than I had ever received from my family. I need to go outside, I wheezed. Standing up from the table, I can't breathe. Sit down and eat your dinner, my mother commanded. You're being ridiculous. I literally cannot breathe, Mom. Look at me. Look at my face. By this point, my eyes were nearly swollen shut. Hives covered my neck and arms, and I was wheezing with every breath. I looked like someone having a serious allergic reaction because I was having a serious allergic reaction. You look fine to me, my dad said dismissively. Maybe if you didn't get yourself so worked up about everything, you wouldn't have these problems. I stumbled toward the front door, desperately needing fresh air, but Brooklyn blocked my path. You're not leaving, she said firmly. We planned this whole day around you coming, and now you want to leave because of a little cat. That's so typical of you, Maya. Everything always has to be about your problems. Brooklyn, move, please. I need to get outside. No. Sit down and eat dinner like a normal person. I tried to step around her, but she grabbed my arm. Let go of me, I said. Not until you stop being dramatic and sit down. The cat chose that moment to rub against my legs, shedding directly onto my pants. I bent down to gently move her away, and that's when Brooklyn completely lost it. Don't touch my baby, she screamed. And before I could react, her hand came across my face in a sharp slap that left my ear ringing. I staggered backward, shocked. Did you just hit me? Don't you ever touch Princess Whiskers again? My parents watched this entire exchange without intervening. I stood there, face burning from the slap, lungs burning from the allergic reaction, staring at my family in disbelief. She just hit me, I said to my parents. Did you see that? She just slapped me. My dad set down his beer and stood up. Maya, you're causing problems. You're upsetting your sister, you're disrupting dinner, and you're being completely unreasonable. I think you should leave. I should leave? I'm having an allergic reaction, and Brooklyn just hit me, and I should leave? Yes, my mother said coldly. You're ruining Thanksgiving for everyone else. This is supposed to be a happy day, and you've done nothing but complain since you got here. I felt my EpiPen sliding out of my sweaty hands as my vision started to blur. The allergic reaction was getting worse, much worse, and my family was kicking me out. I need my EpiPen, I gasped, dropping to my knees to look for it. Oh, for God's sake, my dad muttered. He walked over and physically grabbed my arm, hauling me to my feet. Get out, just get out. If you can't handle being part of this family, then don't be. He shoved me toward the door, not gently. I stumbled, catching myself against the wall, my breathing becoming more labored by the second. Fine, I wheezed. I'll leave. But this is the last time. The last time I let you treat me like this. I found my EpiPen under the hallway table and injected myself right there in the entryway while my family watched. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely work the device. Always so dramatic, Brooklyn muttered, cuddling Princess Whiskers. I walked out of that house and sat in my car for 10 minutes, using my inhaler and waiting for the epinephrine to take effect. Through the window, I could see my family had already returned to their dinner, laughing and passing dishes as if nothing had happened, as if I had never been there at all. That's when I made the decision to drive to the emergency room. Because despite what my family thought, despite their dismissal and minimization, I knew my body and I knew I was in serious trouble. The ER doctor took one look at me and immediately called for a crash cart. My blood pressure was dangerously low, my oxygen saturation was dropping, and I was going into full anaphylactic shock. How long ago did you inject the epinephrine? Dr. Jennifer Walsh asked as nurses swarmed around me. Maybe 15 minutes, I gasped. What was the exposure? Cat dander, massive exposure, all over the house, the food, everything. Do you have a history of severe reactions? Yes, but never this bad. We need to intubate, she told the nurses. She's not moving enough air. The next thing I remember is waking up with a tube down my throat, machines beeping around me, and Dr. Walsh checking my chart. When they finally removed the breathing tube, the first thing she said to me was, Maya, you nearly died. This was one of the most severe anaphylactic reactions I've seen in 15 years of emergency medicine. What happened? I told her everything. About the family dinner, about being told the cat would be gone, about the exposure and my family's reaction. Dr. Walsh listened with increasing concern. Have you been in contact with your family since you arrived? She asked. I don't think they know I'm here. Maya, you've been in the ICU for 3 days. You were unconscious for the first 18 hours. Someone should call them. 3 days. I had been fighting for my life for 3 days, and my family had no idea. Please don't call them yet, I said. I need to think. Dr. Walsh nodded. That's your choice, but Maya, I want you to understand something. This level of allergic reaction suggests that your previous exposures have been sensitizing you. Each time you're exposed to cat dander, the reactions are likely to get worse. What happened at Thanksgiving could easily happen again. And next time, you might not make it to the hospital. So I can never be around cats again. Not just cats. You need to avoid any environment where cats have been for extended periods. The dander can linger for months, even years. And Maya? She paused, looking at me seriously. Anyone who cares about you needs to understand that this isn't a preference or a minor inconvenience. This is a life-threatening medical condition. I spent 5 more days in the hospital, recovering from what the doctors called a massive systemic allergic response. During that time, several people came to visit me. My boss, Amanda, brought flowers and told me not to worry about work. My coworker and friend Jake sat with me for hours, bringing me books and keeping me company. My neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, even drove over with homemade soup when she heard I was in the hospital. Not one person from my family called, texted, or visited. On day 6, Jake brought me a laptop. I thought you might want to write, he said. You mentioned wanting to journal about everything that's happened. I stared at the blank document for a long time before I started typing. What came out was a letter, not a journal entry, not a diary of events, but a letter to my parents that laid out everything I had never been able to say. I wrote about the pattern of favoritism that had defined my entire childhood. I wrote about specific incidents, dates, events they had missed or dismissed. I wrote about my medical condition and their complete disregard for my safety. I wrote about the cat, about Thanksgiving, about waking up alone in an ICU while they enjoyed their holiday. But mostly, I wrote about being done making excuses for them. Done accepting crumbs of affection while Brooklyn got the whole feast. Done risking my life to maintain relationships with people who had shown, consistently and repeatedly, that they valued a cat more than their own daughter. The letter was 3 pages long. When I finished it, I felt empty and full at the same time. Empty of the desperate hope that had driven me for 28 years, but full of something new. Something that felt like self-respect. I want to give this to them in person, I told Jake. But not here, not in the hospital where they should have been anyway. Jake helped me plan it out. On the day I was discharged, instead of going home to my apartment, we drove to my parents' house. I used the key I still had from high school to let myself in while they were out. I placed the letter on the kitchen table, right where my mom always sorted the mail. Then I packed up the last of my belongings that were still in my childhood bedroom. A few books, some photos, a jewelry box my grandmother had given me. As I was leaving, Princess Whiskers rubbed against my legs one final time. Even with my medication, I could feel my throat start to tighten. Goodbye, Princess Whiskers, I said. I hope you enjoy the family you stole. Jake drove me home, and I waited. The phone started ringing at 7:30 p.m. I knew they had found the letter. I didn't answer. They called 47 times that night. 47 times. I know because I counted every single missed call the next morning. Then came the text messages. Mom, Maya, we got your letter. This is completely unnecessary. Call us. Dad, your mother is crying. This is ridiculous. Come home so we can talk about this like adults. Brooklyn, OMG. Maya, what did you say to them? Mom is freaking out and Dad is super mad. What is your problem? I didn't respond to any of them. The next day they showed up at my apartment. I watched through the peephole as they rang the doorbell over and over, then pounded on the door. Maya, we know you're in there, my dad shouted. Open this door right now. We just want to talk, sweetheart, my mom called. This is all a big misunderstanding. I called building security. They were escorted off the property. Day 3 brought a different approach. My dad showed up at my office. I was in the parking lot, heading to lunch, when he appeared beside my car. Maya, this has gone far enough. You're tearing this family apart. I stopped walking but didn't get in my car. I wasn't getting trapped anywhere with him. I'm not tearing anything apart, Dad. I'm just choosing not to participate in dysfunction anymore. Dysfunction? We gave you everything. We supported you. We paid for your education. You paid for my education with money you saved by not having to take me to therapy, not having to deal with my needs, not having to accommodate my medical condition. You paid for my education because it was easier than actually parenting me. His face turned red. How dare you? After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us? What have you done for me, Dad? Specifically. Tell me one thing you've done for me that wasn't either expected parental obligation or something that benefited Brooklyn more. He opened his mouth, then closed it, then opened it again. We've always been there for you. You weren't there for my high school graduation speech. You weren't there when I was in the ICU for 3 days. You haven't been there for anything that mattered to me in over a decade. That's not true. It is true. And the fact that you can't see it even now, even after everything that's happened, tells me that I made the right decision. I got in my car and drove away, leaving him standing in the parking lot. Security met me when I returned from lunch. They had banned him from the property. The email started on day 4. Long, rambling messages from my mother about family loyalty, about forgiveness, about how I was breaking her heart. Messages that managed to make my near-death experience entirely about her feelings. Then came the guilt campaign. Extended family members I hadn't heard from in years suddenly started calling and texting. Maya, your Aunt Linda is so worried about you. Your parents are devastated. Your cousin Mark heard about some kind of fight. He thinks you should reconsider. Your grandmother is rolling over in her grave. Family is forever, Maya. What none of them knew, what my parents apparently hadn't told them, was that I had nearly died, that I had spent 8 days in the hospital, that this wasn't about a fight, but about a pattern of neglect that had culminated in my family choosing a cat over my life. I started forwarding my parents' emails to some of these concerned relatives, along with my medical records from the hospital stay. The calls stopped pretty quickly after that. 3 weeks after I left the letter, Brooklyn tried a different approach. She showed up at my apartment at 6 a.m. on a Saturday, crying. I almost didn't open the door, but something about the way she was crying, quiet, not performative, made me reconsider. Maya, please, I need to talk to you. Ars. I opened the door but didn't invite her in. What do you want, Brooklyn? I read your letter. Mom and Dad finally showed it to me. And? I had no idea. I mean, I knew they treated us differently, but I didn't know it was that bad for you. It was. She wiped her nose with her sleeve. And I didn't know about the hospital. They told me you had gone home to rest after Thanksgiving. They said you were being dramatic about your allergies. I was in intensive care for 3 days, Brooklyn. I nearly died. Her face crumpled. I slapped you while you were having an allergic reaction. I slapped you. Yes, you did. I am so sorry, Maya. I am so sorry. I was angry because I thought you were trying to ruin the day, but you were actually sick. Really sick. I looked at my sister, really looked at her. For the first time in years. She looked younger than her 25 years, but there was something different in her eyes, something that looked like awareness. I've been thinking about what you wrote, she continued, about how I got all the attention, how you were always overlooked. And you're right. You're completely right, and I benefited from it, and I never questioned it. No, you didn't. I want to make it right. I want to figure out how to have a relationship with you that isn't whatever this has been. I studied her face, looking for signs of manipulation, but all I saw was genuine remorse. What about Princess Whiskers? I asked. Brooklyn's face fell. I don't know, I love her, but I understand now that she means I can never have you in my life. And I'm starting to realize that maybe I got the cat for the wrong reasons. What do you mean? I mean, I didn't get her because I needed an emotional support animal. I got her because I wanted something that was completely mine, something Mom and Dad would focus on and fuss over. I got her because I liked being the center of attention. It was the most honest thing I had ever heard Brooklyn say. And now? Now I'm 25 years old, living at home, with no real job and no real life outside of our parents' house. I think the way they treated me wasn't good for me either. It just looked better from the outside. We talked for another hour. It wasn't a magical reconciliation. There was too much damage for that. But it was the beginning of something real between us for the first time in our lives. Brooklyn left with a promise to think seriously about what kind of relationship she wanted with our parents and what kind of life she wanted for herself. I left with something I hadn't expected. Hope that maybe I hadn't lost my sister entirely. 2 months after the letter, my parents made their final attempt at control. They showed up at my apartment building at 8 p.m. on a Thursday, buzzed every unit until someone let them into the building, and pounded on my door until I opened it. "This has gone on long enough," my father announced, pushing past me into my apartment without invitation. "You need to get out, now. I didn't invite you in." "We need to talk," my mother said, following him inside. "We've given you time to cool off, but this family needs to heal." I remained by the open door. "You have exactly 5 minutes to say whatever you came here to say, and then you're leaving." "Maya, we love you," my mother began. "Yes, we made some mistakes, but every parent makes mistakes. This whole thing has been blown completely out of proportion." Blown out of proportion. I repeated the words carefully. "I nearly died, and it's blown out of proportion." "You didn't nearly die," my father said dismissively. "You had an allergic reaction. People have allergic reactions every day. You went to the hospital, they gave you medicine, you were fine. I was on a ventilator for 18 hours. Because you let yourself get worked up. Because I went into anaphylactic shock from massive cat dander exposure in a house where I was told the cat would be gone." My mother stepped forward. "Maya, we've learned our lesson. We'll be more careful about the cat when you visit. We can put her in another room or—" "No. No? No. I'm not visiting. I'm not putting myself in danger again. And I'm not pretending that this is about the cat." "Then what is it about?" my father demanded. "It's about 28 years of being treated like I don't matter. It's about you missing every important moment of my life because Brooklyn had a hangnail or a bad mood or needed help choosing an outfit. It's about you dismissing my medical condition until it nearly killed me. It's about you valuing a cat more than your own daughter." "That's not fair," my mother started. "What's not fair is spending my entire childhood trying to earn love that should have been freely given. What's not fair is being slapped while having an allergic reaction and being told I was the problem. What's not fair is waking up alone in an ICU because you were home playing with Princess Whiskers." My father's face was getting redder by the minute. "You always were ungrateful. We gave you everything, and this is how you repay us? You gave me everything? Dad, name one time, one single time, in the last 10 years, when you put my needs before Brooklyn's wants." He opened his mouth, then closed it. "Name one achievement of mine that you celebrated without qualification or reservation." Silence. "Name one time you stood up for me when Brooklyn was treating me badly." More silence. "You can't, can you? Because it never happened. Because in this family, I have always been expendable." My mother started crying. "How can you say such cruel things? We love you just as much as we love Brooklyn." "No, you don't. And the fact that you think you do is part of the problem. Love isn't just a feeling, Mom. It's actions. It's choices. It's showing up. It's prioritizing someone's safety over convenience. You've never done any of those things for me." "We're here now," she said desperately. "We're trying to fix this. You're here now because you don't like the consequences of your choices. You're not here because you've had some grand realization about how you've treated me. If I hadn't written that letter, if I hadn't cut contact, you would have continued treating me exactly the same way." My father stepped closer to me, and I could see the anger radiating off him. "You think you're so much better than us, don't you? You think you're smarter, more sophisticated. But you're just a bitter, ungrateful brat who can't handle not being the center of attention." "I never wanted to be the center of attention, Dad. I just wanted to matter. I wanted to feel like I was worth something to the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally." "Well, maybe if you had been more lovable, you would have gotten more love." The words hit me like a physical blow. In that moment, everything became crystal clear. This wasn't about mistakes or misunderstandings. This was about who they were at their core. "Get out," I said quietly. "Maya," my mother tried. "Get out of my apartment. Get out of my life. Don't call, don't text, don't email, don't show up here again." "You can't mean that," she said. "I absolutely mean it. You just told me that I didn't deserve love because I wasn't lovable enough. You proved everything I wrote in that letter." My father moved toward me aggressively. "You don't get to kick us out. We're your parents." "You're not my parents. Parents protect their children. Parents put their children's needs first. Parents show up when their children are dying. You're just people who share my DNA and made my childhood miserable. How dare you? Get out, now! Or I'm calling the police. They left, but not without my father throwing one final verbal blow. Don't come crawling back to us when you realize how alone you are in the world. I closed the door behind them, locked it, and slid down to sit on the floor. For the first time since this whole ordeal began, I cried. Not from sadness, but from relief. The desperate, clinging hope that had driven me for almost 3 decades was finally dead. And in its place was something much more valuable: self-respect. 6 months have passed since I left that letter on my parents' kitchen table. 6 months since I walked away from a family that never truly wanted me as I was. The first few weeks were hard. I won't lie about that. There's something deeply unsettling about cutting ties with the people who raised you, even when those people were harmful. I had moments of doubt, moments where I wondered if I was being too harsh, too unforgiving. But then I would remember waking up alone in that ICU. I would remember my father's words. Maybe if you had been more lovable. And I would remember that some bridges need to be burned to stop yourself from crossing them again. I started therapy with Dr. Lisa Rodriguez, who specializes in family trauma and estrangement. Our first session was mostly me crying and apologizing for crying. Maya, she said gently, you're mourning the family you always wanted but never had. That's not something to apologize for. That's something to grieve. Through therapy, I learned about golden child and scapegoat dynamics, about emotional neglect, about how families can be systemically dysfunctional while appearing normal from the outside. I learned that my experience wasn't unique, that millions of people grow up in families where love is conditional and attention is scarce. Most importantly, I learned that cutting toxic people out of your life isn't cruel or unforgiving. It's necessary for your mental and physical health. Jake, my coworker who had stayed with me during those horrible days in the hospital, became something more. We started dating about 3 months after my parents' final visit. He's nothing like anyone I've ever been with before. Stable, consistent, genuinely interested in my thoughts and feelings. You know what I love about you? He told me recently. You don't perform for approval. You're just yourself. It took me a while to understand what he meant. I had spent so much of my life performing, achieving, trying to earn love through accomplishments, that I had forgotten what it felt like to just exist and be valued for that existence. My relationship with Brooklyn has slowly improved. She moved out of our parents' house 2 months after our conversation, got her own apartment, and started working full-time for a marketing company. She also rehomed Princess Whiskers. I realized that I didn't actually want a cat, she told me over coffee last week. I wanted my parents' attention, and the cat was just a way to get it. But I also realized that their attention came at the cost of my relationship with you, and I didn't want that anymore. We meet for coffee twice a month now. It's not a close relationship. There's too much history for that. But it's an honest one. Brooklyn is learning to see our family dynamic clearly for the first time. And I'm learning to forgive her for benefiting from a system she didn't create. Do you ever miss them? She asked me recently. I miss the parents I wanted them to be, I said. But I don't miss the people they actually are. She nodded. I think I'm starting to understand that. Brooklyn still has a relationship with our parents, but it's different now. She doesn't live with them, she pays her own bills, and she started setting boundaries. She tells me that they ask about me constantly, that they're confused and hurt by my absence. What do you tell them? I asked. I tell them that they know exactly why you're not speaking to them, and if they want a relationship with you, they need to acknowledge what they did wrong and change. And how do they respond to that? They don't. They just change the subject. Some people would say that family is forever, that you should forgive and move on, that holding grudges only hurts yourself. Those people have never lived in a family where love was conditional and safety was optional. I have built a new family, Jake, Brooklyn, in limited doses. My therapist, my close friends, my coworkers who rallied around me during my crisis. These are people who show up, who consider my needs, who value my presence in their lives. This is what family should look like. People who choose to be in your life and act like they're glad to be there. My health has improved dramatically. Removing the constant stress of trying to maintain relationships with people who fundamentally didn't respect me has reduced my overall anxiety levels. which has in turn reduced the frequency and severity of my allergic reactions. I still carry my EpiPen everywhere, but I haven't had to use it once since that horrible Thanksgiving. I've also excelled at work in ways I never did before. When you're not constantly exhausted from emotional labor and family drama, you have more energy for the things that actually matter. I was promoted to senior marketing manager 3 months ago, and I'm being considered for a director position. But the biggest change is internal. For the first time in my life, I wake up in the morning without that low-level anxiety about whether I'm good enough, whether I'm doing enough, whether I'm worth loving. I know I'm worth loving because I've surrounded myself with people who love me without conditions. I want to speak directly to anyone watching who might see themselves in my story. If you're the family scapegoat, if you're the one who's always making excuses for people who treat you badly, if you're trying to earn love from people who should give it freely, please hear me. Your worth isn't measured by their recognition. Sometimes the most loving choice is to walk away. Forgiveness doesn't mean accepting abuse, and family forever doesn't apply when the family is toxic. You have the right to protect your peace, decide who gets access to you, and build a chosen family with people who truly value you. That letter I left on my parents' table didn't just end a relationship, it began one with myself. For the first time, I chose my health, my safety, and my peace. And it was the best decision I ever made. Remember, you are enough. You have always been enough. And anyone who can't see that doesn't deserve a place in your life.